Greetings and welcome back to episode 8 of Forever Stranded. When we left off last time, I was looking at automating witch water. While we wait for the mycelium to spread and more water to be produced, you might notice that it has gotten very hot. Target temperature is currently 28 due to the season progressing and it being the top of the day. So that means that we really need to do something more to control the heat than we have already, because next season it will get to the point where even standing in water will not keep us cool enough. So it's time to set up the cooling coils we made earlier. Now these require just a lever to power them. You can place them down, put the lever on, turn it on, and climatization provides a -10 to the temperature. I believe that's 5 for each cooling coil. Actually, we have third cooling coil, so we can easily test that. Nope, the third cooling coil does not appear to affect anything. What the cooling coils also do is they provide a -500 to the rate. And if you're nearby them, even more. So that means that even just standing around, we're dropping current temperature fairly quickly. And if we were to go stand in the water, we're dropping at a rate of 1 temperature a second. So between these two, we should be fairly well off for cooling for the foreseeable future. Actually, while not actively trying to cool off, I'm going to turn that off so that way the rate at which I increase heat slows down. Because for some reason, the cooling coils will increase the rate at which you gain heat as well. Okay. That should be good enough. Cocoa bean farm. Another thing to look into at this point is speeding up the production of resources. Sifting by hand takes several seconds for each item, and you only get 64 out of a silk mesh. So the next step is to do compressed sifting. This is done by taking 9 of dust, sand, gravel. Well, that's ender gravel. But 9 of whatever you're planning on sifting, putting them together into a compressed block, and sifting that. However, a regular sieve will not handle that. So you have to go take the next step into a heavy sieve. Which is the same recipe as a sieve, only using wood instead of planks. Which is easy enough to make. Spruce, oak. Then, this isn't sufficient by itself. If I were to put a mesh in here and try and sift a compressed block, the mesh would break after 1 use, no matter how many uses were left on the mesh. So that means we need a stronger mesh, which is the iron mesh, and that's just 4 iron bars. Since we made iron bars earlier for making the cooling coils, we now have an iron mesh. Plop it in there, go back out to the crafting table to compress some of this dust down. And now we can get done in 7 siftings, what it used to take 64, or 63 rather. And instant lots of resources. Now, this is only about 77% as efficient when it comes to uh, the transformation of the resources, because um, the heavy sieve has the same drop chances for each item as a regular sieve, but drops 7 instead of 1, whereas the regular dust. So you only get 7 out of a dust instead of the 9 dust that you put into it. But the speed is just so much better, and especially once we start getting into auto hammering, auto sieving, the production rate just can't really compare. And there's all 14. So we just did 2 stacks of dust that quickly. We can just throw it all in here and then see what we've got. Let's see, we're up to 26 powdered iron ore. I'll go ahead and start working on smelting that, because that's another 6 iron. And we are going to need a lot of iron to make some of the auto sifting and auto hammering items. We're going to need more charcoal, which is over here. Turn that to tiny charcoal so we don't waste any, and throw it in. Now, oh good, the mycelium is spreading. Those are not turning into witch water. I wonder if I do actually need the oak barrels to do that. Let's just steal these and swap them out and see. I must be misremembering how to make witch water. We'll get back to that in a minute, and just let the mycelium continue to spread. But I've mentioned auto sifting and auto smelting a couple times, or auto hammering a couple times now, and that's done with these items from X Compressium. Auto hammer just takes a bunch of iron, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and a diamond hammer, and it will just hammer away at items you give it, turning cobble into gravel, gravel into sand, sand into dust. Similarly, there's also a compressed hammer, which will hammer compressed cobble into compressed gravel, etc. This, however, takes steel, and a compressed diamond hammer, which takes 9 diamond hammers, so we just don't have the resources to do that one yet. There's also an auto sieve, which takes 20 iron, and will also just keep sieving whatever you give it. And a heavy sieve, which does the compressed blocks, but requires steel. So that's something that we're going to have to keep in mind as we get more iron, as to what makes sense to do when. There's also an auto compressor, which uses 13 iron, and will take, I believe it takes just ordinary sand and dust and such and converts it to compressed. But I think it also will take these powdered and crushed ores and convert them into the block form as well. With the crushed crushed ores and the tier you get from gravel, you can hammer those to get a slight increase in the amount of ore you get overall. So if you're short on ore, it's worth doing. If you're short on hammering resources, it's iffy. But that's part of the reason why I've mostly stuck to dust so far, is just to not have to worry about that. So I'm going to figure out what I'm doing wrong with the witch water. Apparently nothing. Okay. So the oak barrels do work for this. So let's just transfer the water over into the oak barrels. Get rid of the stone ones. And call it all good. We'll put the stone barrels over here because I'm fairly certain that you can use them to compost with. Yes. And might as well put up the other two over there. Earlier we used up a couple buckets of lava and I never got around to replacing the cobble in the crucible to make more. Okay. So, we needed witch water to make soul sand, which we now have a couple of. That one's still fermenting. And the soul sand, once it's smelted, will give us the item required to make the transfer ducts, or transfer pipes. Here's the vile dust. Now for the transfer pipes, we require, that's something else. There they are. 6 stone slabs and 2 glass. Well, let's throw a couple sand in to get the glass going. 6 stone slabs. Some crafting type stations will let you put stuff in when you don't have it all. Apparently this one doesn't. And we now have transfer pipes. Quest complete. Moving things around. Yay! This gives us a choice reward of another splash potion of heat resistance, since we still have our first one, and the ability to get 3 more from a quest. We don't need that. 3 energy conduits. That could be useful, but we're not using the photovoltaic cells quite yet. 4 liquid pipes. These could be very useful for automating basic water things. So like putting the wooden crucibles over here to create water, and then piping them in here to create witch water, and from that soul sand. Now, but before we choose, let's see what the requirements are to make it. 6 clay and a copper sheet, which requires a rolling machine from advanced rocketry, which appears like it's going to take quite a bit to do, since it requires various boards and just a lot of crafting. So that might be useful. 7 transfer pipes. Nah, we can now make those fairly easily. Or a loot chest. Overall, I think I'm going to go for the liquid pipes. I don't have an immediate use for them, but having them on hand will be useful. And while we're at it, let's just grab those and move them as I was just talking about. 2 of crucibles. Now, I'm thinking if another arrangement of these things would make more sense. For example, if we put the liquid pipe there, I was originally just going to put them on top of things, but that doesn't make much sense because we can do this and with one pipe feed 3 oak barrels. Put the other oak barrel down. That is not the oak barrel. I need to look up how to actually use these liquid pipes, as I have never played with advanced rocketry before. So, we'll be back in a moment. Well, after a bit of research online and quite a bit of trial and complete error, I've given up on trying to automate this. It wasn't that important to begin with, and I just couldn't get it to work. It seems that the fluid pipes from advanced rocketry that we got, or liquid pipes rather, will not pull the liquids out of an inventory. So the water would just stay in the crucibles and wouldn't move anywhere. My first thought was to use an Ender IO tank, because these have configurable sides to actually pull water from an adjacent inventory, and then I'd use that to pump it into the pipe. But this was a bit more iron than I wanted to use on something that wasn't particularly useful at the time. So I also tried the transfer pipes and their fluid transfer nodes, and this would work to pull the water out of the crucibles, but it would just pipe the water into already filled barrels and waste the water. So, gave it a shot. I don't need it now. We'll address it again later when we've got the need for it. I did sift a bunch more sand, and if you notice, we got a lot of crushed ores now, including a full stack of crushed iron ore. This brings me to a mechanic that I didn't exactly cover very well earlier, and that is that you can take this crushed ore, craft it into groups of 4 to get iron ore sand. Now, I can place this in the world and hammer it to get the powdered iron ore that we've been getting from sifting dust. Now, if you recall, I had one full stack of the crushed iron ore to make 16 blocks of sand. Now, we only got an extra 5 powdered iron ore. So it's not a great ore increasing mechanic, but it does increase it somewhat. And then we can start that smelting. I already smelted a bunch more aluminum because I had a full stack of that, and was just trying to clear a little bit of space. I'm going to, actually, not going to bother with, doing that stuff just yet. In a moment, we're going to have enough ore to start looking at the auto machines from Excompressium. The hammer is what we first will have enough for. So, I'm going to go ahead and make one of those. It takes 2 iron pressure plates, 6 iron, and a diamond hammer. So, it's just that, and we have an auto hammer. Now, I haven't used one of these before, so we're going to have to take a moment to see exactly how to use it. Oh, okay. That's easy enough. You just put a stack of something in, and it will hammer it. Oh, I also have to provide hammers. And power. Okay, this is a little bit more expensive than I was hoping it would be, but at least we have photovoltaic cells Plant one on top, one on the side. It's consuming it, even though I don't have any hammers. Interesting. Okay, that was fairly quick and easy to look up. This is going incredibly slowly because I'm only providing it with, well, at the moment, 2 RF a tick, and it takes 40. So, it's running at 5% max speed. During the day, it'll get up to half speed. So, we're going to have to look into RF generation soon if we want to use this very much. Now, these slots are actually for enchanting books. They're not, I don't actually need to provide it with the hammer. So, with that being said, let's look at generators for a moment. We have a wide variety of options. There's the simple generators. Ooh, another source. Basic furnace one. There are similar ones in extra utilities. There's a coal generator from actual additions. So there are quite a few options for how to do this. I think that the actually additions coal generator is actually a good choice. Well, it takes a bit of iron. I don't know. We'll cover that. We'll get back to that in a little bit. Another thing I found out about the auto machines from X-Compressum is that you can actually feed them regular food. In some of the images I've seen of these machines, there's actually a little person in there hammering. So that actually does kind of make sense. You got a little being in the machine, so you feed him and he works better. Now this, the effect of the food is dependent on both the number of haunches involved and the... One of these days I'm gonna look it up. Saturation. That's the name of it. The saturation involved will also, between the haunches and the saturation, it will boost it in various ways. Now, right-clicking with food items. I wonder if that's actually no longer true, or if it has to be vanilla food. Okay, perhaps that doesn't work. Or it's just disabled in this pack. Okay, so, moving on. That will work ever so slowly, mostly during the day. In fact, it might be most useful at the moment for just giving it all the crushed ores to hammer. So, at the moment, I need to gather more resources and decide what to work on next. So, back in a little bit. And welcome back. If you take a look at the current temperature out, it's 28, and it's already past midday. So it actually got up to a target temperature of 30 today. So I can't tell you how useful it is having these cooling coils to bring it down by 10, and then combine that with the water back here, and the temperature just falls away. I just cannot say how nice it is to be able to have the temperature drop that quickly. So, the auto hammer is working slowly. I've been throwing in some of the ore sands to hammer out into the powdered ore versions, and it's progressing slowly but effectively. Now, one way to improve it would be to automate it a bit. And to do that, we're going to need the transfer pipes and a couple redstone, 2 chests. I only have one in there, so we'll have to make a couple more. And make the transfer node items. Now, we'll just put a chest on, oops, not there. A chest on either side. Transfer nodes. And a pair of transfer pipes. So this way, I can put the items to be hammered in here, automatically get piped into here, and these items will get piped out and into here, from which I can just grab them and compress these into the ore dusts to actually smelt. That being said, I am going to move all of my powdered ores out there. Or at least the major ones. That way I can just grab them all from one spot. Okay. Then I need to fill up that chest with things to actually hammer. So we'll grab any of the crushed ores that we have enough of. More powdered. Throw them in here, and eventually they'll get hammered into dusts. Ah, good. It already finished the next one. And then also one stack will get stored in the transfer node while it waits for some place to put it. So, we have a lot of aluminum, we've got enough of several of these that I should just go ahead and smelt full stacks of the powder into 16 ingots each. And for that, I think it's time to make a couple more furnaces. The one has worked well for now, but things are starting to speed up a bit, so we need more smelting ability. A couple stacks of tiny charcoal, and the smelting can get started. Thankfully, not thankfully, nearby blocks, the furnaces stack. So my target temperature is currently 56. We should take a couple steps back and let that be lower. So, it's getting on towards being a good wrapping up point. So far this episode, we looked at and failed at automating witch water. Not that it matters much at this point. During a break, I did go around and finish, blind arrow, not nice. I finished that, stair step around the edge so that way mobs would fall in a little bit more regularly. Made and somewhat automated the auto hammer. And overall, just made some good progress. And so, until next time, enjoy.